Hello, Jamie. How are you doing?
I am so glad to be here.
Great.
And I'm honored and flattered that you're having me here and putting me in the hot seat to talk to you.
The pleasure is ours.
Good.
I know that you wrote some awesome books,
Yeah.
right? Could you tell us a bit more about you?
Sure. So I'm an author. I've written a couple of books, one on mobile marketing, another on social media, and then I co-authored something on digital marketing.
Yeah.
I also get to go around the globe speaking to people like I'm here today in Bogota, just to talk about marketing and how to use new marketing techniques in order to grow your sales and revenues. And then I also am the CEO of 60secondmarketer.com, which is a blog read by people around the globe who are interested in learning about the science of marketing, what works and what doesn't work, and all the things they can do to continue to improve their marketing. So it's a great job. I love it because I get to meet people like you, and I get to meet people like I am tomorrow at the event. So
Great. Good to have you here. So I know that you're on a mission to help businesses increase their sales, their revenues, right? The first question I would like to ask you is, the biggest enemy of business is obscurity. Mm-hmm. You need to get out there, people need to know you to buy from you.
Yeah.
How should a new business start digital marketing?
Yeah, so that's a great question. In fact, I'm consulting with an organization in Austin, Texas right now that doesn't have a lot of money. So they're a small business and they're trying to make an impact.
Yeah.
The good news is that the people who are running marketing take risks and say things that are louder and maybe a little edgier and a little bit more thought-provoking than big corporations that tend to be conservative and they don't want to ruffle feathers, they don't want to say anything that might offend anybody. So my advice for anybody who wants to get into marketing or wants to grow their business through marketing is take risks, do things that are a little outside the norm. And what you find, especially with digital marketing, is even if you say something that angers some people or rubs people the wrong way, tomorrow is a new day and people are looking at the new Facebook feed or the new digital blog that they're reading or anything like that. So the number one thing I try to encourage people to do is say things that are a little outrageous just so that you can stand out from the crowd.
Great. A lot of people are focusing, especially like new companies, they're focusing on creating a website, getting their Facebook page up, Twitter accounts, Instagram profiles. They go crazy with Facebook ads, YouTube ads, search and display. But at the end of the day, none of that really matter if they don't get their story right.
Yeah.
What is your view on that?
That is true. In particular in today's world, and this is really a global trend, it's particularly pronounced in the United States, but you see it across the globe. People want authenticity. They don't want salesmanship. They don't want to be sold something. What they want to know is who you are as an organization. And so the very first step for any organization is to drill down and figure out who you are. Now, if you're a smaller company, you may have the founder still involved in the organization, which is great. A lot of times the DNA, the sort of genes of a small company, it starts with the founder.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you can use their personality to figure out who you are authentically. But the key thing is, even if you have a company that's been around for a little while, is figure out who you really are, figure out what matters to you, embrace things and take a stand on things, whether that's people in the news, whether that's political movements, whether that's movements that help other people through nonprofit organizations. All of that is important because it tells people who you are as an organization, and then they can support you.
Great. I like that answer. However, you're talking about authenticity. Mm-hmm. What is your advice on those small businesses, startups, to show that their authenticity?
Yeah.
Right? What is in terms of storytelling and content creation?
That's a great question. Here's why. You can push authenticity too far, and here's what I mean by that. I'm a big proponent of going out. So I'm a blogger and I'm a marketing personality, and so I like to share things that are the realities of what I do. It doesn't always go as planned. Sometimes I have things that don't go well, or speeches that don't work properly, or things I've written that don't work. That's okay. People want to see that because they see the real you. Hey, here's a problem I had. In fact, I had a very good friend of mine who did a speech and she got really negative reviews. She came out with it and said to everybody on Facebook, hey, I got negative reviews and I'm feeling sad about that. And everybody came to her support. So it was a very good thing.
Okay.
That said, I have also seen people, some bloggers, who admit to things like one admitted to being addicted to pornography. That's something that as a business person, I'm like, you know what? I don't need to know that. If you have a problem at a speech where it didn't go well, yeah, let me hear about how you're fixing that. Sometimes people push things a little bit too far, in my humble opinion. Now, there might be some people who disagree with that, but I think that authenticity sometimes gets pushed too far when people talk about certain things. But for the most part, what I found is that people like it when I say, here are all the times I've failed. Here are the things that I've done that didn't work out. We don't talk about those much because we're too busy talking about how great everything is.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people really like to learn from your mistakes. So I encourage people to do that a lot.
Oh, great, great. About content creation, I would like to know, like, what is your advice for businesses out there that are kind of focusing too much on getting their display banners, you know, they're getting their Facebook ads, getting their pay-per-click ads up and running, but they're not really focusing on thought leadership content, for example. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's important. Here's the key thing I try to do in what I'm doing on my blog and elsewhere is to make sure that I'm doing something that is helpful to the reader and not just me pontificating or telling people, here are my thoughts on something, but really saying, here's something that you're probably struggling with. Here's how one company solved it. Here's how another company solved it. And here are action steps for you. So the key thing on all content, if you're trying to do thought leadership content, is to end the content with, here are 3 things I want you to do, you know, or here are 5 tips you can take from the blog you just read, or here's 1 action step. In fact, tomorrow at the Seminarium conference, I always say to the audience at the beginning, today I want you to write down 5 things that you're going to start doing tomorrow based on what you learned today. Because a lot of times people get to the end of an event, they've listened, they have a lot of great ideas, they get back to the office and they don't do them.
Action.
So the real key is figure out what the action items are, and when you're doing content, make sure that the content you provide has action steps for people so that they can move forward with something coming out of reading your blog or watching your video or anything like that.
Great, great, great. Makes perfect sense. This is something that we come across in the marketing industry with our clients, right? The majority of businesses expect sales convergence straight after they launch a campaign, and they go. They want these kind of campaigns, and they don't really think about creating awareness campaigns and generating that initial interest. How do you deal with such client expectations? I
am so glad you asked that question because it's exactly right. Here's a story that happened to me. I was working with a marketing automation company, and they were struggling to gain traction because they were doing all digital ads. And I had heard about a friend of mine who runs a software as a service social media platform, and he's based out of Paris. And I said, and he's had success. So I called him up. I said, what are you doing? Because we're suddenly seeing these sales go up for you that's different, so I can tell my friends at the other company. And he said, the bottom line is when we run a digital ad, generally speaking, we don't show a positive ROI. So if we run a campaign and spend $1,000 on that campaign, we used to not generate more than $1,000 worth of revenue, and that meant the campaign had a negative ROI, return on investment. So what he said though was, we built our brand over the long term so that now our digital campaigns are starting to work better because we stayed and did all those fundamental things about doing videos, doing blog posts, doing podcasts that built awareness for our brand so that now when we run digital ads, we do get a positive ROI. So it goes to exactly what you're talking about, which is you can't just rely on digital, you'll be disappointed. You have to do both digital and branding, and when you do that, it works great. If you do just branding, you may not see the results. If you do just digital, you may not see the results, but when you do both, that's where things worked out great.
Yeah. Personally, I mean, I always see this like as a red flag. You know,
Yeah.
when someone tells me like, yeah, we want to launch this campaign really quick. You know, we want to start selling our new service that we're offering. The first thing I tell them about, hey, do you think that the market knows about you?
Right.
Right. That is the first thing I would always tell them.
Yeah.
Because no one is gonna give you their credit card details.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless they know who you are.
You're exactly right. That's such an important statement. Nobody's going to pull out a credit card and put it into a computer with a company they've never heard of before.
Yeah.
That is so important. I'm really glad you said that. You need to build the trust beforehand so that people go, oh, I keep hearing about these people everywhere, this company everywhere. I know that they're legitimate and I'm going to pull out my credit card. That's great.
It's more about the authenticity, as you mentioned before. I know that one of your main focuses, as we mentioned earlier, is to kind of help businesses grow their sales and their revenues. But my question over here would be, how should businesses integrate their marketing teams with their sales team?
Yeah.
Because this has to work clockwork, right?
Yeah.
It has to work really good.
Yeah.
And there should be a synergy between both teams. What are your thoughts?
That's a great question. I consult with a company out of Spain right now, and that's one of the questions they had was, we seem to be struggling a little bit. So I went in and I looked at the company and took a look at what they were doing, and what it turned out to be was pretty simple, which is there was no communication, and it went three ways: marketing and sales and customer service. So the customer service people, when I was doing the investigation, said, sometimes we get phone calls from customers and they say, well, I want to take advantage of the sale that you're having. And we're like, what sale? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And so we said, okay, so it's really all about fluidity of communication, just making sure there's a constant stream of communication. The answer to your question is very simple. And I'm going to get very tactical here. We went in and all we did was say, twice a month, we're going to sit down for a short meeting where we just review what's going on so that everybody in the company knows. And all of a sudden, just like that, everything started working great. And it was such a simple solution. It wasn't new technology. It wasn't investing in something. It wasn't firing people. It wasn't anything like that. All it was let's have a meeting every other week and just make sure the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. And things turned out great. So it worked out great.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. That's a kind of, let's get back to basics, you know. Like, let's not complicate things, you know. Let's focus on.
Well, I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine, and he and I were looking at business development strategy. So we would literally meet once a week to talk about, what are you doing? What am I doing? And we would hold people accountable. And we were talking about everything, all the tools, all this sort of stuff. And he said, you know, early in my career, the best salesman in my company was an old guy. And he used to watch all the young people with all their daytimers and their computers and their gadgets doing stuff. And he used to come in and he said, you guys are too smart for your own good. He said, all you have to do is pick up the phone or email somebody. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here. It's about working the fundamentals. Because in the end, it's about relationships. And you work with people that you feel comfortable with. And so when you feel comfortable with somebody, you'll buy from them. And that's true not only on personal selling, but coming full circle to your earlier question, it's true in the digital world. I'm not going to pull out my credit card and spend money with you unless I feel comfortable with you. So in the end, I guess you could say that marketing, sales, everything is all about relationships, and that's the foundation, and you build from there.
Build from that, I would like to talk to you about one of your books, which you co-authored, right? It's called Digital Marketing Hacks. Am I correct?
Yes.
I would like that we end up this interview by sharing with us a couple of tips of what businesses can learn from, right, to take their business to the next level in 2019.
Yeah, so I've got 3 tips. The first is to, no matter what you're doing in marketing, whether it's digital marketing or anything, have a roadmap, have a strategy, have a plan, be thinking about the roadmap, and be starting with the end in mind. Be saying, here's where we are today, that's where we want to go tomorrow. That's fine. A lot of companies do that. The second thing is to test your way to success. And so what I mean by that is, a lot of times people will run Facebook campaigns or digital marketing campaigns and they're like, yeah, we're running the campaign. But they aren't setting up before they launch them the metrics that they're going to measure things by. So it's really critical that you look at the things that you're going to measure. Now, we live in an information era. Sometimes there's too much information. So I would encourage people to narrow it down to the key performance indicators, KPIs, that they can look at that give them a sense whether the campaign is working or not. And sometimes that's 2 or 3 things or 4 or 5 things, but it's not the 1,000 things that you can get with all the information. And then the final thing, and this is probably the most important thing, is people talk about the importance of strategy. They talk about the importance of vision. They talk about a mission statement for your organization. In the end, the truth is, it all boils down to execution. So many times people have a great strategy and they don't execute it, and then they don't succeed and they're like, why didn't our strategy work? If you have a mediocre strategy and you execute, that will always be better than having a great strategy that you don't execute. So fundamentally, you have to hold people accountable, you have to work the problem, you have to meet regularly and say, where are you, where are you, where are you, and where are we measuring where you are? How are you performing? Are you above or below? And in the end, what you'll find is when you execute flawlessly, or even not even flawlessly as much as regularly, you'll find that you have a lot more success.
Great.
So that's the key.
That's a very interesting insight and tip, right? I fully agree with that. I always believe that execution is the most important thing, and not to sleep on ideas. Right? You have to try ideas.
That is a great phrase. I love that. Not to sleep on ideas, because a company I'm consulting with right now, they're struggling. And I said, guys, let's not overthink this. Let's just do a bunch of things. And I know that if you look at the textbooks would say, well, you have to develop your strategy. And yes, that's important.
That's important, yeah.
But at the same time, sometimes don't sleep on things. Just do them and test them and see if they work, and then test 10 things, and 3 might work, and then work on those 3. So I love that idea. Don't sleep on things. Yeah.
Jamie, thank you a lot for your time. I learned a lot from all the insights that you shared with us today, and I would like to ask you, where can people learn more about you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I learned a lot from you. I love some of the things you ask because it's important, and the questions you ask set up perfectly for a lot of hopefully helpful answers to everybody watching us. You can find me, just Google Jamie Turner, and I should come up in a lot of different places. You can also go to 60secondmarketer.com. That's my blog, and then follow me on all the social media that's out there. But I have had a great time today, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I will invite you to continue this discussion in the comments section. Make sure that you follow us on social media, and make sure to press the subscribe button on YouTube. Until next time, see you soon.